Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Music Den. I'm your host, Armando Venditti. Hoping you guys are having a great day. And above all else, try indeed looking after yourselves and one another. Ladies and gentlemen, before I get into the topic of another stimulating, exciting, informative episode, I want to welcome back to the channel Mr. Ken Cheshire. How's it going, you
Oh,
old curmudgeon?
I know what you mean. I'm glad to be here and wrapping up this series. This has been a hell of a ride for me. Anytime I get to talk about my favorite music, it's a good day.
There
I
you
thank you,
go.
my friend. Yeah.
Oh, you're very welcome. This is going to continue. Ladies and gentlemen, Ken is referring to the last episode of Band Spotlight, featuring the one and only Tears for Fears. Now, over the past 6 weeks, we have been looking at this band's potent, influential, but short catalog of albums. And week 7 is no different. We're going to be taking a look at their sophomore release, Songs from the Big Chair. All right. Now, just a bit of background on this release. Songs from the Big Chair are originally released on February 25th, 1985, through Vertigo Records in Canada, Mercury Records in the US, and through Phonogram Music Distribution. Upon release, Songs from the Big Chair reached number 1 in the US, number 1 in Canada, and number 2 in the UK. The album was recorded between 1983 and 1984, produced by Chris Hughes. There were 6 singles released from Songs from the Big Chair. Those songs being Mother's Talk, Shout, Everybody Wants to Rule the World, Head Over Heels, I Believe, and a re-release of Mother's Talk of the US 1985 remix. We'll get into that. Now, just a bit of background if we go a little further. After the release and success of The Hurting, Phonogram, Mercury Records, and management were on the band's ass to deliver another album right away. We have to strike while the iron's hot. We can't wait. And coming off the tour for The Hurting, the band were pretty much knackered, as the British would say, and they felt pressured to release new music. So the band got together and thought, okay, what are we going to give them? They came up with a single called The Way You Are, gave it to the record company. They weren't really thrilled with the release. The record company said, "Ooh, this is fan-bloody-tastic. Give us more." And Roland Orzabal and Kurt Smith are thinking, Jesus Christ almighty, what more do you want from us? We're not ready yet. Performing in the band at this point in time, it was still a 4-piece consisting of Roland Orzabal on lead vocals and guitars, various instruments. Kurt Smith on lead vocals, bass, various instruments. Ian Stanley on computer programming, keyboards, piano, various instruments, backup vocals. Manny Elias on drums, percussion, etc. This release, upon release, hit the roof. It exploded. Now, I remember Shout being released as the first single. However, I was wrong. Mother's Talk was released as the first single as far back as 1984. And Mother's Talk was recorded no less than 3 times because both Roland Orzabal and Kurt Smith were not fans of the recording that was originally done. What you hear on side 1, track 4 of Mother's Talk is the Songs from the Big Chair version, much more dramatic, much more prominent drums, etc. But we'll get into that. This album would go on to sell millions of copies. The band would take the album on the road for the tour, for a tour, sorry. And joining the band on tour on additional instruments. You have Nikki Holland, who played additional keyboards and backup vocals, Andy Sanders on guitars and backup vocals. Completing the live lineup, you have Will Gregory on saxophone. Now, I recently did a video on the live release at Live of Massey Hall in 1985, um, which for me is a fantastic performance of the music from Songs from the Big Chair and of The Hurting. But today it's all about Songs from the Big Chair. Now, before I give my opinion of this album, Ken, what is your view of Songs from the Big Chair?
I think it deserves all the accolades that it's received over the decades. I bought it without having heard anything off of it at the time it was released, because I was a fan of the first album, The Hurting. Um, so it's like, okay, I didn't need to be sold on it ahead of time. Um, However, I wasn't expecting it to be so good because there are elements of it that appeal to me even more than the first album, primarily because it's a little more organic sounding, bringing in regular drums along with the Linn drums. Um, there's quite a bit of guitar on this, which there wasn't on the first album. And as primarily a guitar player, from growing up in the '70s and whatever, uh, guitar rock is um, just in my bones. And plus, Orzabal is a very underappreciated guitarist. He's just so good, and he has I can't think of the other guy's name. Let me look here. And it's not in my notes. Oh, Neil Taylor also providing some excellent lead guitar on a couple of songs here.
Yep.
But mostly this is all Orzabal on guitar, and it's absolutely fantastic. Whether you're talking about a guitar solo or guitar riffs or just little motifs that he throws in there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. Also, he carries almost all of the lead vocals on this. Um,
Yes, Kurt Smith would be relegated to one lead vocal on Everybody Wants to Rule the World on this album.
and one songwriting credit too.
One songwriting credit, that's right.
Um, and it's interesting because I watched. There's a many of you are aware. There's a series of documentaries available out there called Classic Albums, in which each episode focuses on a guess what classic album. And on the episode on this album, it was interesting. In an interview, wrote Orzabal said that, of course, he had invited Smith to be the lead singer in his band early on. Then and he had no desire to be a singer. He just wanted to be the guitar player.
Mm-hmm.
Then they lost their bass player, and he said, "Hey, Kurt, can you play bass?" He goes, "No, but I can learn." Uh, and that's
Yeah.
why. And so Smith does more of the lead vocals on the debut album, and that would remain the same until their most recent album, The Tipping Point, where he is
That's
much
true.
more involved in everything. But there's many stories behind that. But yeah, Orzabal really steps up to the forefront here. I think this is where he's really showing what he can do vocally on guitar, and this is where he really uh, goes off on the deep end in his songwriting. Excellent, excellent songwriting, and the first album was great, but this is where he really starts to expand. Um, I think one of the biggest strengths of the success of this album was the combination of Chris Hughes and David Bascom as producer and engineer.
Mm,
They work. It's a great team between engineer and producer, and they
yeah,
really um, they really worked well with Orzabal and the others that were um, that on the recording as far as writing and arranging.
that's right.
And I think they really brought out what the band could do in which the band didn't think they could do.
Well, that's just it. Chris Hughes and David Bascom, but Chris Hughes pushed Roland
Mhm.
Orzabal in into areas that he didn't think he could go into.
Yeah,
And I'll get into that in a second with one song in particular.
sure.
But yeah, no, it's true, true. And I failed to mention this. After the tour for Songs from the Big Chair, the inspiration for a follow-up didn't come quickly.
Hmm.
Ian Stanley would remain in the band until 1989 for the recording of Seeds of Love until they had creative differences and he would leave the group. Manny Elias would leave the band in 87 and would go on to work with such artists as Peter Gabriel. And Nikki Holland would remain in the band as a session player and songwriting partner for Roland Orzabal until 1991. So you had all these different, musicians coming and going in the band throughout the time span of the band, with Kurt Smith and Ron Rosenbaum being the two central members of Tears for Fears. They were the face of the band, which the other two, Ian Stanley and Manny Elias, would take a back seat. So there you go. But that's a little catch up there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
And of course, the one of the biggest differences between, um, like I said, this is much more of an organic sound than the first album, but also in Orzabal's songwriting, whereas the Hurting was very inward looking as far as the song themes and everything. This one is when they start looking outward into the world, and in a way, um, almost more than any other album. There's songs here that especially address, the Cold War and stuff like that. So it's not quite it. Yeah, it's a huge difference. They would go on after this, where Orzabal would write about um, personal stuff, personal experience, and what he's going through, without being as so narrow as the themes of adolescent pain of the
yeah,
hurting.
yeah.
So,
Orzabal would say later on in their career that looking back at the hurting, um, not that it was a bad album, but he really couldn't identify with it at one
yeah,
point because you grow up, right? You move on, you mature in
yeah,
terms of who you are as a person. So where he and Kurt Smith were at that point in time wasn't exactly where they were at when they wrote and released The Hurting, which is natural. It's a not and progression
yeah,
happens, right?
yeah.
So
Well, it's like
so
Pete Townsend and Roger Daltrey singing "My Generation" now.
yeah,
I hope I die before I get old. Excuse
yeah,
me.
yeah, yeah. Not even gonna go there. Um, yeah, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
I'm sorry. Um, well, my history with this album, it was a foggy day. No, I remember seeing the video for Shout, and it was listed as the brand new the new single from the upcoming release of from Tears for Fears. The video was just so, I wouldn't say striking, but the music was just so
Sure.
dramatic,
Hmm.
with the the drum machine beat, etc., and just the whole set of lyrics for the song, and it was, according to Roland Roosevelt, a protest song.
Yep.
Now, I bought the album in May of that year and of 85. I went out with my brother-in-law at the time to go buy records, and I bought this on vinyl along with Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Welcome to the Pleasure Dome.
Ooh.
And I gotta tell you, between the two albums, guess which one I listened to the most? Okay. Now, when I heard this album, side one for me just knocked right out of the park. Starts with Shout, goes into the Working Hour, track two. Now, the Working Hour was the original title for the album,
Hmm.
featuring Mel Collins of King Crimson fame on saxophone. And it was just such a unique track in terms of the arrangement,
Sure.
in terms of the use of saxophone, just very complex, very unique. If there was a track on this album that was going to be called progressive pop, this would be the track. And there is footage of them performing this track on top of the pops. If you look on YouTube, you'll find it. And then you have Everybody Wants to Rule the World, where the original title for this album track was Everybody Wants to Go to War. Okay. Now, the origin of this track is that Roland Orzabal had an acoustic guitar in the studio, and he was playing two chords that you hear in the musical passages in the verses. Okay. And Chris Hughes finally one day said, "What the hell is that? What are you playing?" So, "Oh, this." And he's playing it. He's like, "Oh, it's nothing. It's nothing." He's like, "Really? Okay." So one day, his wife Carolyn was in the studio and she heard that little bit of music and she said, "I like that." And Chris Hughes said, "Yeah, I like it too. Talk to your husband about it."
Yeah.
So Chris Hughes took those two chord progressions and put a drum track to it, simulated a drum track to it, and came up with the basis of the backing track for the song. Presented it to Roland Orzabal and said, "Work with this."
Yeah.
They worked with it. And it became a classic. Okay.
Huge classic.
Mother's Talk as a final track on side one, to me, this is the ultimate version of the song, the definitive version of the
Yeah.
song. It's very dramatic, very epic in scope and delivery. Program drums or not, Lynn drum or not, this son of a bitch rocks. Okay. It gets your ass moving, your ass shaking. It makes you think. The delivery of the vocals is just over the top. And Roland Orzabal on lead vocals delivers a powerful performance. Side two, for me, took a bit of getting used to. Starts off with I Believe, another single from the album, which is more of a jazz oriented track with Roland Orzabal doing his best Robert Wyatt imitation. Okay. Um, but it's it's an over the years I've gone to like the track quite a bit. Segues into Broken. Now, Broken has its roots back in 1983, 84, with the original title We Are Broken, which is
Yeah.
featured on the Super Deluxe edition of The Hurting that you can hear. Uh, just, again, program drums or not, boom, it's in your face.
Yeah.
The bass work on this track is just exemplary from
Oh yeah.
Kurt Smith. Uh, Beautiful guitar work from Roland Orzabal. Segues into Head Over Heels. You know, that grand piano entrance, that intro from Ian Stanley on that, and it is just wonderful.
Yeah.
Then it's, it's one of the only love songs on the album,
Yes. Or that he's written.
or that he's written,
Yeah.
with the lyrics, I wanted to be with you alone and talk about the weather, you know. Um,
It has become my favorite track off the album,
yeah,
honestly.
the video of which was filmed at the University of Toronto
Right.
in 1985, around the same time that the band were performing at Massey Hall. After that, that whole track, first of all, the bass line, I'm hearing Take Me to the River
Yeah.
from Talking Heads, that
Sure.
bass line, doom, 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 doom. And it's like,
Yeah.
it is there. That is the inspiration for it.
And what's really unusual, I mean, looking at the album as a whole, there's a lot of instrumental stuff on this album,
Yeah.
meaning huge minutes of just instruments with no
Yeah.
vocals. And
There's
on
a,
this one, the vocals, well, let's take a step back on Broken. On Broken, the vocals don't come in until almost the 2 minute mark,
yeah.
a minute
Yeah.
and 42.
Yeah.
And that's was very unusual at the time.
Yeah.
Um, Also, there were other electronic bands using saxophone at the time,
Mm-hmm.
but not jazz saxophone.
No.
I mean, the sax on this album is very jazzy. Especially you listen to the to I Believe and the Working Hour.
Mm.
It's very jazzy. Um, they really mix a lot of different flavors and genres in
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
yet still maintain this particular vibe. And I love the fact on side two, you've got I Believe, Broken, and Head Over Heels. Each song automatically drifting into the other,
Segueing. Yeah. Yeah.
segueing into the other. At the end of I Believe, um, it's a lot of reverb on the vocals,
Yeah.
and that's Orzabal on the piano, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. My
And
apologies.
it's like,
Okay.
holy cow. Yeah, that's not just plucking out notes with, 2 fingers.
No.
And it ends on this um, very dissonant chord,
Yeah.
goes right into Broken.
And those drums that come in on Broken are just so
Good
powerful. I mean,
gosh. Yeah,
programmed or not. I mean, those drums kick you right in the ass when they come in.
yeah,
And the bass work from Kurt Smith on the track is just
unbelievable.
like, my God,
And on several, and on most of the other tracks too.
yeah.
I've watched a lot of video. I've never seen them live, but I like watching their videos, and especially uh, anything live on YouTube.
Mm,
And I've never seen. Of course, they had another guy on stage to play bass when Kurt Smith was doing lead vocals,
mm,
and same thing with Orzabal, on guitar. Um, but I never saw Smith really play any of those um, really amazing bass lines.
yeah.
And I guess so. I never gave him much credit as a bass player,
Yeah.
but I guess it's just that the camera they didn't put him on camera when it was time for those passages to um, to see what he was doing. Um,
Exactly.
so over the last several years, I've become I'd like to talk to Kurt on the phone and say, "Hey, man, I'm sorry, I didn't think you were a good bass player.
Jeez.
But Believe Broken and Head Over Heels to me is a small suite,
Yeah, it is.
a suite of three songs. Um, and and yeah, I wasn't a big fan of I Believe either. Um, but listening to it more and more over the decades,
Hmm.
especially with some good headphones, it's like, okay, this is, one of the slowest tracks on the album, but it's very different. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's one of those things that I kind of grew into, actually.
exactly.
Um, yeah, but
And
Head Over Heels, you got that great bass line. It's a rare love song from
yeah,
Orzabal. The
yeah,
synth, the synthesizer solo after the first chorus is, to me, is just really catchy, um, and it wraps up with what I refer to as the Tears for Fears sing along,
yeah. The choir sing along.
which he is real good. I mean, after all, the album opens with one of those,
Yeah,
and he's just good at coming up with those.
yeah.
Um,
And then head over heels in terms of the song overall. I mean, if we can backtrack for a second,
yeah,
starts with the grand piano intro.
mhm.
The melody line of the song, which is so identifiable. You
It
know what the
is.
song is when you hear
It is.
those chords coming in, that chord progression, right?
Yeah,
That melody line. And then you hear the guitar that comes in and it copies the same line. So
yep,
it
yep,
beefs it up with along with the
yep,
piano. And then the drums come in, boom, 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 and it slowly
yep.
builds and builds and goes into the verses. You hear the bass line. If you isolate the bass line and you hear it is Take Me to the River
It is.
version
Yeah,
from Talking Heads.
yeah.
And then when it goes into
Consciously,
the
yeah.
consciously, and then when it goes into the chorus of the choir, that la 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 la,
Hmm.
it just builds and builds and builds like over like just multi-tracking the vocals.
Yeah.
And then, you know, at the very end of the song, when you hear Roland Roosevelt comes in on the lead vocal and he says, "In my mind's eye, one little boy, one little man." Funny how time
Time
flies, and
flies.
they use that spiral effect on
Yes.
the vocal, and on the album it segues back into Broken
Yeah.
live,
Yeah.
right? Just like 50 seconds of it. But again, it is so powerful when they do it that
Yeah.
it's just like that is the suite. I
Yeah.
believe
It
Broken Head
is.
Over Heels and Broken Live. That is the suite. And then I'm not sure if that portion of the song was done at Massey Hall. I'm not sure, but you hear the audience react, and then it segues into Listen, written by Ian Stanley, Orzabal, and Roland Orzabal. But Ian Stanley has the main songwriting credit for it.
Hmm.
And this song, like I believe, it is so unlike any of the other songs on the album,
Hmm.
consisting of, sequencers and synth passages overlapping one another, just swirling and textured synth passages that are just so beautiful. It's like a drapery of synth passages that
Hmm.
comes in, and the very minimal vocals from
Yes.
Kurt Smith,
Yes.
you know. And the story is that Ian Stanley, when he wrote the track, it took him 2 days to write it, to come up with the drum
Hmm.
parts and the keyboards, and he played it to uh, Roland Orzabal and Kurt Smith, and Roland Orzabal said, "That's it. That's the song. We need it for the album."
Hmm.
And Ian Stanley's like, "Are you sure?" He goes, "It's going on the album. We need it, and it's your song. You get the credit, but
Yeah.
it's gonna happen." It is so the antithesis of everything else that comes before it.
Hmm.
on the album that it's just like, and I gotta tell you, as a 15-year-old, I didn't get it.
No.
I
Oh
didn't
no.
get it. Just like I Believe that starts off side two. I'm like, what is this shit? Like at the time, it's like, what is this? I want the immediacy of the hit,
Yeah.
right? Of the pop single of the hit. I'm thinking, what is this shit? Like, come on, you know?
Hmm.
And but as you grow older, your musical tastes change and your appreciation for music changes. I Whenever I hear this album, I am dumbstruck.
Yeah.
I am dumbstruck at the potency, at the poetry, at the majesty, at the grand presentation of this release,
Yeah.
in my very humble opinion. I don't have I don't have words for it. Bullshit. But I can't even with what I described, I can't even begin to describe this album adequately.
Yeah. Was this
After
your entry level to the band?
No,
Your entry album?
my entry album, but I knew of the band with the
That's
hurting.
yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But this was my entry level in terms
Okay.
of buying an album.
Okay.
And I was just
Wow.
like I was blown away,
Mhm.
you know. Um, Here's my question to you, and then I'll shut up. After all these years, do you still find different elements and textures when you listen to this album?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Especially with the I think it was the 2014 mix. It hard to believe, but it made it even cleaner, to hear everything. The and the thing and looking at it from a different perspective, um as a musician, because in college in studying music, um I was taught how to, shall we say, analyze and break things down. We talked about those that just two chords. Everybody wants to rule the world. That element pops up on many of the songs on here. I mean, you talk about listen, it's primarily just two chords, and I think the progression as far as the steps between the chords are they're very close, if not exactly the same. Um, is It's just taking something that is um, by structure very simple and just really being very very creative in doing it. The and Hughes and Bascom, actually said with Listen, it's like, okay, just keep throwing more things into it. Um, One of their friends who um, I can't think of the guy's name now, um, but Orzabal and Smith's friend who loaned him or gave them access to his home studio to record.
That was Ian Stanley.
Was that Ian Stanley? Okay.
Just
Uh,
quickly, the story is that they were in a discotheque one night, a vegetarian discotheque, and this tall chap, approached them and said, "Would you like to use my home studio?
mhm,
I believe it was, there are different reports of it being a 24 track or an 8
yeah,
track studio. I believe it was an 8 track studio to
I
do
think.
some demos." And they said, "Sure." And he said he didn't want any money for it, but they offered to pay him for it. So
Yeah.
it was Ian Stanley, right?
Okay.
Um,
I couldn't remember.
yeah,
Um, but that little chant that you hear
yeah,
and listen, he said it was just a nonsense, something about. something about buying and eating chicken. If you break it down, it's all just
Yeah.
um, the closest way that I can think to um, explain the closing track is it's more close to ambient than anything else. Yet it's
Yeah.
still melodic somehow
Yeah. It
with
is.
that very, very short melody in the middle,
Yeah.
verse or chorus or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And the rest of it is just building upon these sounds. And they said that they wanted to put this on there to leave the listener with the sense of peace and meditation after all the bombast. And uh, that's the phrase that I use. They didn't say
Yeah.
bombast
Yeah. Yeah.
of
What came
what came
before it?
before. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've always, anybody that's watched any of the other videos in this series or any other videos that I'm in on this channel, know that I really do like to look at the opening and closing tracks, particularly
Yeah.
to see, um, you know, the sequencing on this album is perfect, as I think it is on all of their albums.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's interesting you talk about touring after this album. Um, I think they were probably especially knackered after after the tour of this
They,
album, because they only, first of all, they only had two albums worth of songs.
yes.
And then because of the technology at the time, they had to perform it the same way every night because of where computer technology was at the time,
Yeah.
for the electronics. They couldn't just mix it up in whatever the way they could now.
Yeah.
And so, 184 gigs or more, whatever, of exactly the same thing every night.
Yeah.
Ooh,
The story was that first of all, when you the live at Massey Hall, it's a 13 track album. It's basically the set list, an hour and 6 minutes. Now, the fact that these songs were performed every night in the same order, in the same way, I think the only difference is that Mad World doesn't have uh, the snare drum come in. It's a different arrangement on that.
okay.
But these songs were done every night in the same way, in the same running order. At the end of the tour, left them emotionally drained,
Hmm.
physically drained, but any but also devoid of any type of musical spark, any musical inspiration, because of the structured songs and the
Yeah.
use of the drum machines and the sequencers. They couldn't flex their musical muscles, and they couldn't think of outside the box, right? Musically. Um, and it was draining on them, and to the point where they were in Kansas City performing. They went to the bar in the hotel after the show for a drink. And on stage, I've said this before, I'll
Yep.
say it again, damn it, is a woman at a grand piano with a bass player and a drummer singing these notes and using her voice like a music instrument. That woman, Olita Adams.
Yeah.
And grown men in the audience were crying
Crying.
because of the power
Yeah.
and the passion in her voice. And Roland Rosenbaum said, and I'll shut up in a minute, but he said, here we are, we're the most popular band in the world at the time. We're traveling with all this equipment, all these sequencers and synthesizers and drum machines. We couldn't create that much power and that much passion in that one room at that point. No way.
Mm.
Which led them to work with her on the subsequent release of Seeds of Love in '89. But yeah, this album was a turning point for the band.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I'm sorry,
And I don't
whenever
believe in coincidences, for them to just be so absolutely, worn out that they, go to the bar to drink. They're exhausted, and there is atoms to a meeting that would shape the direction of the band for the next 4 years.
yeah,
And they asked her to go on the road, open for them, and
yeah,
it showed there's a video. It shows her um, opening her opening song, opening for the band. She sang "I Believe," and that the crowd just went absolutely ape shit.
ape shit. He said
And
shit.
and
Okay,
she,
go.
I did, except I spell it with an E. But the but she says it's like, who opens a concert with just a grand piano other than someone like Elton John or Billy Joel?
Yeah,
And oh my gosh, she takes that song to another level.
yeah,
I mean, Orzabal does an incredible job with it, but you put her soul singing and what behind it, it's like, oh my gosh.
yeah. And he would go on to produce her debut release, Circle of One, in 1990. Um, but that's another story.
That's another story. And of
Um,
course, check out our video for Seeds of Love, and her contributions to that album uh, are immeasurable.
yeah, yeah. So you answered my question a few minutes ago. So you would not resequence this album in any other way.
No, especially you've got, side two with that little mini suite of those three songs. Um, and you're right. The first half of the album, especially the first three songs, are just boom, boom, boom. Shout, to me, a good album opener is promising what's to come.
Yeah.
It's the salad before the steak dinner.
Hmm.
It's a promise of greatness. Um, and yeah, it was probably smart for them to put that first. Um, I think it's arguably between that and Everybody Wants to Rule the World, which one is bigger? You'd have to look at the stats, but those are the two tracks that everybody and their dog recognizes. Um, but
Yeah.
Shout is more powerful as a rock song. And so I think that was probably the best decision to start out with. And especially to work in the working hour in between. Um, it's a very different track. Lots of sax, a large portion. The song is 6.5 minutes long. I'd venture to say that at least 40% of it is just pure instrumental.
Yeah.
The sax opens it up. That's just um, almost just freeform sax with just a little bit of piano underneath,
Yeah.
playing some
Yeah.
arpeggios or whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
And just to put
yeah,
something in here, the working hour was the response to The Way You Are,
yeah,
because just to backtrack very quickly, they give The Way You Are to the record company to pacify them, get them off their back. They're like, "Oh, this is great. This is great." And the band are like, "Oh shit, what are we gonna do now?" So they write the working hour in response to The Way You Are. In
yeah,
that, when you listen to the chorus of the working hour, it states, "This is the working hour. We are paid by those who learn by our
Yeah.
mistakes, meaning, you know, we're getting money, we're getting paid for writing a song like The Way You Are, which we really don't think is that great.
Right.
But the record company is like, oh, this is just fantastic.
Yeah, they submitted that song, and I agree, it is not a good song. I'm sorry. Thinking the record company is gonna reject it
Yeah,
and give them more time to record.
yeah.
Boy,
But I
that
mean,
backfired, didn't it? Yeah,
yeah,
the song is, and the song is a dig at the record company and the industry overall,
yeah.
which, as we well know, um, Orzabal will experience a lot of that in the years since. This was just the first taste of it.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. I mean, this album also presented or painted the band members, Smith and Orzabal, as very serious-minded musicians,
Mhm.
that they didn't laugh, they didn't have a good time. Well, nothing could be further from the truth, but
Yeah.
this is the way they were presented to the world, in that when you see them in interviews during this time period, you kind of see them sitting very pensive
Mhm.
and defensive, almost like, what do you want from us? Like, why are you asking us these questions? Okay, we're here to perform, but why do you want to talk to us? Like,
Mhm.
what do what do you want from us overall? Like,
Mhm.
what more do you want, kind of a thing. Whereas when you see them later on, and you know, as a band, they are, you know, average individuals who
Yeah.
happen to have this ability to create the most inventive, innovative, passionate,
Hmm.
uh, imaginative music that I've ever bloody heard,
Yeah.
you know. Um, and I will go on record as saying that this is indeed my favorite um, Tears for Fears album of the 1980s.
Yeah.
My other favorite would be Everybody Loves a Happy Ending from 2004. What is your view?
Ooh, that's a good question because for me, each of the albums is so unique in of itself. There is no album that's, part one and part two and part three. Um, mm, um,
Oh my God, that was a hell of a. It's like, oh,
I'm not
oh,
sure. Yeah, it's tricky because this album in particular, it was so huge at the time, and it was huge for me at the time. I bought the album, and I, I I probably listened through it once, and then I immediately burned it. Listen to me.
burn.
Recorded it on the cassette for my Walkman, and would just I was in college at the time, and I'd spend all day with those little bitty headphones on whenever I could, and I'd just be listening to it over and over and over and over again. Um, that and several other albums, the debut album by The Fix, the debut album by Talk Talk, and just listening to those albums over and over and over again. I didn't have the collection of music that I have now, um, and even that I would have 10 years after that. Um, yeah, probably I would probably agree with you as far as the 80s. After that, I'm really not sure because each
Yeah,
of those albums that follow are so unique.
yeah, yeah,
Um, I think probably um, all around, everybody loves a happy ending is their best.
yeah, yeah,
Uh, Recording wise, production wise. Composition wise, I think it's their best.
Yeah,
But man, there's just so much on those other albums that I love so much
yeah.
that
I know, I know. Just a
there is
little.
no way that I could rank their catalog and be satisfied with the results. Because it was like, okay, this is, even number two is like, oh yeah, but what about these two? Oh
Yeah,
God. Even many of the songs that never made it on an album
yeah, yeah.
are just so incredibly good.
And there is a super deluxe box set uh, featuring songs like Pharaoh, Empire State,
Yeah.
The Way You Are, also featuring remixes um, of the singles and other songs, and a video documentary called Scenes from the Big Chair,
Yeah.
which you can see on YouTube as well. Just another little quick factoid. When Everybody Wants to Rule the World hit number one, they were sent a bottle of champagne, reportedly by the members of Wham, George Michael and Andrew Ridgeley. They sent it back, apparently.
Heard that. Ah.
I'm not saying it's true. I don't know, but
He probably didn't know where it had been, but we won't go there.
yeah, to me, this album, oh my God, it is pop, it is rock, it is avant pop, it is avant-garde, it is anthemic, it is romantic, it is political, it is climatic, if that's a word, it is everything I described. It is beyond description, in my very humble opinion.
Yeah.
Even the words I used just now, I cannot, it doesn't even begin to describe my feelings for this album. I will make one concession though. I do believe that releasing a US 85 remix as an additional single of Mother's Talk, I do think was scraping the bottom of the barrel. It is a classic case of wringing everything you can out of an album to get the sales for it. There was no need, as much as I like it, and you can get it on the box set,
Yep.
which I have in the graveyard in the basement somewhere.
Mine over there. Yeah.
You didn't need to release a sixth single.
No, especially when there's only 8 tracks on the album anyway.
Exactly.
Six out
Exactly.
of eight.
Exactly. It was we are not amused, okay, with releasing that as a single. But otherwise, for me, this album is a diamond.
Yeah.
It is perfection
I
on
can't think of a
two sides of
single,
vinyl.
yeah, I can't think of a single deluxe edition or box set from this band that isn't worth it. Um,
Yeah.
sure, you get a lot of the experimental stuff that's just kind of way out there. But one of the great things about the 80s um, was a proliferation of remixes. Holy cow. That was a really great thing about music then.
I mean, every territory had to have a remix.
Yeah.
You had to have the UK mix, the US mix, the European mix, the your mother, father, grandfather, grandmother, and dog mix. I mean, if you burped, you got a remix. If you
Yeah.
passed gas, you got a remix. Um, it was that was uh the way it was in the 80s and
Mhm.
into the 90s. But yeah, for this album, my only way to end this is every track on this album could have been a single.
Yeah.
Pretty much was.
Yeah.
But every song, in my very humble opinion, is strategically placed where it should be. And there's nothing on this album that I would skip
Hmm.
or resequence. It is
Yeah.
simply perfect.
Yeah. And even though it's got a box set, it doesn't need one. I
Yeah,
mean, just the album as it is
yeah,
can't be improved on. It's just the box sets are just extra bits and pieces.
yeah, yeah.
Probably, maybe, more than likely, just for fanboys like us or fan curmudgeons like me, it's just, yeah, you just want more. You just want another taste.
And
And
I will say, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut off. I
yeah.
will say this. I do find it interesting how I'm not sure which B-side it is, either Empire State or Pharaohs, but you hear the guitar riff for Everybody Wants to Rule the World. You hear the solo guitar
Mm,
riff that's done in
mhm,
the solo,
mhm.
but just done very calmly,
Yeah.
very sort of just wistfully done, as it
Hmm.
were. Just as a nice accent to
Sure.
that piece of music. But you can only get that either on the box set or the B-sides compilation,
Hmm.
Saturnine, Marshall, and Lunatic in
Hmm.
'96.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's this album to me is just perfection.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. A very extended and
Passionate.
passionate discussion on songs from the big chair. Finishing off our band spotlight on Tears for Fears. I want to thank Ken for joining me on these 7 episodes. It has been amazing,
Yes.
and we are going to continue this series. But before I can discuss that, please put down in the comments your opinion of this album.
Please.
Where were you in '85 when this album came out? What songs resonated with you? Would you resequence this album? And I'm going to go a little further. Were you at the show at Massey Hall in Toronto in '85? I was only 14 at the time. I couldn't go. My mommy and daddy wouldn't let me. But a little footnote too. Ticket prices range between $25 and $30 for a ticket. Anyways, if you were at the show, let us know your memories of the show or your memories of this album. Uh, I've said it before. I've always viewed Tears for Fears as thinking man's pop. And listening to this album again for the cajillion time for this episode, it just solidified that opinion for me. Any closing comments?
No, if you haven't listened to this album, as you would say, Armando, what are you waiting for?
There you go. Again, we'll welcome your comments and opinions of this release.
Please.
Uh, please click like and subscribe to keep yourselves and the notification bell to keep yourselves in the loop for any new content we got coming up. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a pleasure. We do promise Outlaws and Heroes is coming up.
We have
Okay.
promised not to die until we have done that.
Yes, yes. When we're both on oxygen masks with oxygen tanks beside us in the video, we will get that set of episodes done for you with Bill Schuster. We promise. Um, I'm going to be doing a ranking the album segment on the Smiths with Sagosh, and we are also coming back with album anniversaries for the month of July. Okay, so please stay tuned for that. And we're going to be coming up with more videos, more ideas that we're working on, and we're going to get them to you as soon as we possibly can. All right, we're going to be, little quick note. We're going to be doing an album discussion on CO2 from 1994, produced by Trevor Horn, featuring contributions from Jeff Beck, Joni Mitchell, Wendy and Lisa from The Revolution. That is coming up. and we are looking forward to that. I know I just saw Ken peaked when I said that episode because that is indeed his favorite album from Seal. Anyways, that's coming up as well. So please stay tuned for that. I'm Armando Venditti signing off for Ken Cheshire. We'll see you soon on the music den. Sorry. Please look after yourselves and one another. Have a great day. Bye for now.